Hello, everybody! How are you? In case you don't know me yet, after applying to the United Nations about 20 times, my name is Fanny Menardi and I am making a new video today regarding the Chief of Service for Political Affairs position at the United Nations. So this is a special because I hope this is the one. Actually, every time I've been applying to a new job, even though it took me years and so many efforts and working more in the weekends and after work and sacrificing a lot of time, it was actually as if I was in the job, because every time I immerse myself into the content, what is the job offer, who are the people who work there, trying to make things happen from where I can, either from my social media network or in my own job, working for the Sustainable Development Goals, as in providing quality education, for example, in my neighborhood, or participating to local events. So a way or another, even though I was kind of stuck here being a mom, a single mom, I still find that I evolved into the roles, and now being able to pretend to a direction role, that would be my honor. So first, before I even start, I want to thank all my network, mostly online. I've been throwing some big names in my motivation letters, like the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, who are doing an amazing job in not only establishing new measures to help people, but also showing empathy and compassion and showing the example in what we are supposed to model in our everyday life. So of course there is a huge gap between our ideals and our values and what we are able at our level to reproduce in our everyday life, depending on where we live and our abilities. But once you have a model and a goal of who you want to become, then you have to make everything in your power to make it happen step by step. So we're here today to fast track, okay? Actually, so you see I have my book here, the Pachamam Art Encyclopedia, that I wrote for the United Nations, and I'm talking about the 6 stages of acceptation, how every time you submit new ideas or new concepts or new laws or progress, technology, evolution, everything that is innovative, you have to go through the 6 stages of acceptation, which is first a denial, a rejection, and then questioning, a lot of questioning. People question you, they want to know more, they doubt you. You have to establish this trust. I was watching the Game Has Changed Summit, and one of the presenters was saying, what is the hardest thing to earn, whether it's in your network, on social media, or in relationships, is the trust. Okay, so this of course takes time before you get to be accepted and then promoted. Okay, but thanks to this network, we're actually able to fast track this because of the influence. So joining back to thanking everybody, so all the big names I've been putting in my application letter, like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or superstars like Kim Kardashian or Snoop Dogg, but also my mentors, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and all the scientific, dear to my heart community, Robert Edward Grant, Nassim Haramein, the International Space Foundation, without forgetting, of course, all my OGs, Billy Carson, Ellen, the Blue Angels, the Navy, FBI, everybody who actually little by little joined the network. And of course, all this online, this is what's incredible, because of course when you live with people every day, it's not the same story, because you get to see all the aspects of everything. It's like working at the FBI. Of course, you have this glorious image of they're saving the world, but in their everyday life, they also have to deal with stuff that are not that poetic, So on internet, you get to choose what you show, you get to choose what you receive as well, what you want to be exposed to. So this is why you're able to go a lot faster, but also to influence people, because everybody uses their phones every day. You're scrolling, and this is a way that you get to enter people's mind and change their mindset. So this is very powerful. And so this is how we're using the social media to our advantage. Just like talking about magic or energy transition or spaceships or things that looked like science fiction years ago, because everybody is now talking about it, then the masses start to believe it. If it's just one person, this one crazy person saying it, then of course you will stay this one crazy person. But when everybody starts noticing the synchronicities, and why was it accelerated? Because thanks to the internet, not that it happens more than before, but because something happens to me, oh my God, I'm going to post it on social media, and someone else, oh my God, this happened to me too, and sharing it. And then what we get on social media is confirmations from other people that adds up to your confidence, and that's then giving you the assurance to show yourself, your true self, and speak about your real speech and languages. So all the pillars, I want to thank you so much for pushing me in the journey. And I think, we see a lot of success stories of people being interviewed during their successful phase of their lives, and saying how they had these hard times and everything they had to overcome, whether it is talking about their personal stories or financial downfalls or professional obstacles. But my story was a little bit different, because I started posting, exposing myself when I was crashing. So everything was going great in my life and I was normal, but when I started actually yelling was during my downfall, that I was completely lost, and I felt like I was losing control of my own life. And then as I went and succeeded in some stuff and failed in some other stuff, I posted the solutions that I found, and I also raised awareness to the politicians or the people who could actually make a difference of what was needed. That a lot of people go silent when they're in that phase of their lives, but because I was transparently talking about it, they could offer solution and see how to adapt their politics, how to adapt their speech. So this is why we became a society so solid and connected, because we saw that we could rely on each other. And I wrote in my letter also, you have to learn when to be a leader, but also when to be a cheerleader. So like every relationship, you need to have a reciprocity. So through all this network and my book that took me 3 years to write, sometimes you see a lot in the history of how artists, how they disappeared for 3 years, they disappeared for 5 years to work on their secret inventions or on their books or discoveries or scientific new technologies that they found, and then they came out with some masterpieces. So that's a little bit what happened to me. Like I was also not punished, but put in that situation, so I didn't have any other choice, that if I wanted to succeed, I had to put everything that I had in my head and publish, my videos, my masterminds, and my books, and my oracles, and my art. So now it's ready. President Obama just today was posting that it's great to have a lot of things written, but you also have to go and take action. So at some point, that when everything is ready, you have the content, now you're ready to go and take action. So in that case, for this job, taking action, what would it be? It would be my pleasure, my honor to do inside trainings, for the United Nations, and do masterminds with the teams to show how to write better letters, how to improve your communication or staging when you're making video, how to be very intentional in everything that you say, because we realize that everything we do now manifests. So if you want, of course, we can all it doesn't have to always be perfect, but if you become a master programmer, a master coder of everything that surrounds you, you're able to fast track your success and the influence that you have. You know, it's all about sound and love and the energy and the waves. So when your energy or the waves you're making or your message correlates with other people, then it adds up, and then the waves becomes massive until all around the world. So we're ready to go and get it, you know. So what I was writing also was, what is the point of a scientist to make a research and work for 20 years, 30 years of their lives if not to actually make the invention? You know, Nassim Haramein was saying today in one of his videos that he's got the equations and now all he needs is a budget to be able to turn all these old energies into clean energies now. Or the book Train People to Literate Excellence, or someone who has hacked the matrix. What is the purpose then? To recode it. If you become a master programmer, then you want to recode the matrix. But for that, you have to build your network and gain the trust of your network, and then so all your voices can amplify and then resonate all around the world. And then once you gain the mindset, once again, putting it in action and be that person is another story. But through solidarity and through new ways to consider the economy, for example, new measures that we could put into place that are very simple, that could change all the single moms' lives, is to obligate most of the companies to have flexible schedules or to have daycares inside of their companies. So my problem as a single mom is that for years I couldn't work because I was stuck at home because nobody wanted to hire me. Oh, sorry, I need to start at 9 o'clock and I need to leave at 3 o'clock, but I want a $5,000 paycheck, you know? Nobody hired me because the schedule wasn't, didn't correspond. So having the ability to have a daycare or more flexibility or being able to work from home, this is one thing that COVID, one of the gifts that COVID showed us is that we could still make the economy work and function by working from home. So offering more of these jobs where people have this freedom of traveling and still having the trust that they are going to complete the job, you know. And then the purpose of war, well, there is none, but the glory is when we actually manage to reach peace. So you see how all the branches of everybody is now starting to lead us to a giant trunk, how the progress of science, the progress of spirituality, the politics, or the artists, everybody is now finally gathering in one message because we have no choice. It's not that we all one day wanted to make a change in the world. Okay, yeah, maybe most of us, but it's also that we don't have a choice. I didn't want to become an activist and risk my life or yell at everybody on social media just for the fun and exposing myself and all my failures. No, it's because my son and I, we were both sick. We see, you know, the bad effects of the antibiotics. We see the pollution, how we started having pneumonia, how the bad ingredients that is selling the food. Like when you have kids, you start trying to see what world you're going to live for them, you know. So then you don't have a choice. And when you see the global warming, okay, here in the United States, we have AC, we have all the comfort. We don't see the effect of global warming until one day Florida is underwater, you know. But in the other countries, you see the gap, okay? You see the drought in California or in Africa, or how people, the conflicts, every conflict in the world comes from poverty. If there is no poverty, there is no conflict. So not just being so selfish and thinking of yourself, but also trying to work to make it available for also everybody, okay? But it works both ways. So there is reciprocity, because you can't just expect the government or people to just give if you're not able, if you don't want to be involved. I know that the whole time that I was in these difficult times and I didn't have the money, I never said, I don't want to work. I was like, give me a job. That's all I wanted since I came to, give me a job. I want to be independent. I don't want to just depend on someone. I was tired of depending on someone. I want to have a job. I want to contribute. I want to feel useful. I don't want to be left out just babysitting as much as you love your kids. You don't want to be a babysitter all your life, you know? Enjoy it while you can. But if you want to receive, you also have to give, you know? So yeah, let's keep using our voice, the economy, the influence to fast track the progress in our mentality and in our consumption habits also. And you can blame the people for using so much plastic if everything that you buy has plastic. We must forbid the production of plastic when it's not necessary. Once again, you go to Walgreens, everything is under plastic. I don't need to have my tomatoes under a box of plastic. I don't need to have the soap in another layer of plastic. I don't need to buy cookies and every single cookie is individually wrapped. What is this? Like, what a waste of resources. So we need to put strict rules in the production of plastic. We need to put strict, drastic rules in the production of cars and automotives, so we can now focus, redirect our energy, our budget in armament, redirect it towards ecology, all the things. So now that we are convinced, there is still half of the people, because if everybody was convinced, that would be easy. Of course, just take a topic like abortion, and you realize that it's not over yet, because if you still have half of the people, half the country that is against abortion, there's a lot of education to still do. There are some topics that are not debatable. I'm sorry. Gun safety and abortion. This is medical. This should not even be debatable. This should be, you have medical advancement should be available to everybody, and let people decide what they want to do with their body. I don't even understand, as open as I am, I don't even understand why we would put barriers to our advancement or technological advancement. It's like we know that we need to have clean energy, but we keep producing cars, combustion-based rockets or oil-based cars. So this needs to change at the root, so people don't have a choice in their consumption habits. So even if you haven't been educated, even if you don't care about the environment, then you're still part of the change. So, and the truth is that we don't trust ourselves nor each other enough. This is why we need to have this safety all around us, but we are always guided. And that's one of the things also that I want to show with the book, is that most of the time we feel lonely, but we always guided within us. For example, one of my students, I was joking with them, I was like, oh, I see the future. And one of my students was like, really, you see the future? I was like, yeah, I can see the future. He was like, so what is my future? And I was telling him, of course he had told me before, so I knew already, but I told him, I was like, oh, you're gonna be an officer in the military, because he said one day he wanted to be in the military. And I told him, say, you're gonna be an officer in the military, in the Navy. And then I don't know why I thought, why Navy? No, an Air Force. And I said, no, the Air Force. I was like, what do you want to do, Air Force or Navy? He says, yeah, Air Force. And at that moment I realized, I was like, see, it's like you constantly have conversations with yourself in your mind, but if you don't listen to it, then you can't see how powerful you are in the information that you receive all the time. So I told him, so yeah, you're going to be an officer in the Air Force, and this is what you have to do. This is the school you have to do. You have to have a bachelor's. So when you enter the military, you're not starting from the lowest level. You can start, you're already ranked, you know. So like my mentors always say, surround yourselves with the people who know the pathway, so you can actually fast track your journey. Even though it would take you 4 more years to study, you know, it's easy to say after high school, I'm going to join the military. I was like, if you take 3 more years or 4 more years to study and you get your bachelor's degree, you actually save 10 years of your career. So sometimes it's better to be delayed 3 or 4 years so you can enter at the highest level. So this is what I feel that's happening with my own journey, and I'm grateful that I actually had this time with my son and time to dig information everywhere I could. So now I can actually be joining at the highest level, inspired by the best people in the world, because I surrounded myself, even if we're online, surrounded myself with the people who have the life and influence that I want, so my message could actually reach and be put into action by associating with the decision makers, you know. And this is why I also want to do politics, because I love the way the politics are going. I love the compassion and consciousness that is with the governments at the moment. So don't forget to vote, vote.gov, as Kamala Harris, our vice president, said today, because all the efforts, of course, don't come from a day to another. Right now, we are barely starting to recover. All the jobs that we see created is what we're recovering from COVID. And now we're becoming all aware of the energy transition. So it's not going to be from a day to another. We need another term to be able to start the machine, even though they already started pretty fast, actually. So in order to work together, of course, we need to have a safe space to recharge. And this is the problem of our society. Because the workplace, I already said that, the workplace, we need to have daycares, so people can trust, and see who their baby is being taken care of by. And we are not all equal in the marketplace, but we must become each other's pillars. Reciprocity is key. So an unbalanced relationship can work for a little bit, but if you want it to last, both might be bringing something to the table. And this is always, sometimes you don't always receive from where you give, or it doesn't have to be money currency. Of course, it's how all my mentors kept me going, by constantly pouring their love and their energy, their example and modeling, that constantly put me in that fork in the journey. It's too hard. I want to give up. It's too much work. I'm just gonna give up. But if I want to be like them, then I gotta follow. I don't have a choice, because if I give up, everything stops. So now that you've done so much work, mostly after my book was written, all you can do is keep going. And I think this is an example that we can apply to anything, like the energy transition. Well, now that we've done all this work of propaganda, right? Information, awareness, and the equation, the scientific, they have this equation for free energy and all this stuff, that now you're too far along in the journey to just stop and abandon. So you have no other choice than keep going and ensuring that the next generation continue your legacy as well, and not give out your power to people, because there are some people who want the power just because they want the power, or they lack this empathy. I don't even know. There's some people really scare me, You can't, you have to fight to have the right people in power. And of course, we all are allowed to have our different points of view. But when I see a stadium of 100,000 people cheering on a dictator, a racist, talking about immigrants like they're criminals, or mocking ecologists and stuff like that, when all the biggest organizations and scientific in the world warn you that it's gonna damage you, like, we can look away, we can ignore until it reaches out to you. That's the problem. Racism, you can ignore it and say, oh, it doesn't concern me, until the day it does, until the day it arrives in your neighborhood, until the day it hurts one of your friends, until it's one of your students, until it's discrimination can be around. You can be discrimination about anything. You can be racist against people of color. You can be racist against homosexuals. You can be racist about single moms. Oh, they're all bitches, you know. You gotta keep them away because they're dangerous. You can be racist against the government. They're all corrupt. We don't trust them. You can be racist against anything, you know. It's so you can also so that's dangerous, you know. You don't want to be a carpet and say yes to everything either. You have to stand for your ground. You have to defend yourself, but you also have to protect the disease. Why? Because people are scared. At the root of everything is fear. If people are scared of other people, it's because they're scared to be attacked. They don't feel reassured. They're scared to lose something. So you have to show them the Hispanic culture, for example. Why take them on a trip to Peru? Take them open little Mexican tiendas here in the neighborhood, so they see like the best places I've been to in Peru. You get to the store, hola mamacita. Like people were fighting for me to go spend Christmas with them in Peru. They're like, no, she's gonna come spend Christmas at my house. No, she's coming to my family, you know, like but in France, in my family, when I tried to invite people for Christmas, they were like, oh no, they're not family, we're not taking them. I was like, what? Like, you know, this is cultural. We're scared of what we don't know. So traveling is great to open up the mind, of course. And so what is preventive diplomacy? Of course, I want to stay in the topic of this job that is so wide, actually, how to train the teams, how to do preventive diplomacy. This is at so many levels. This is telling men how to treat their women, of course, because if at home things are not going right, then you become ill, and it's very difficult to be 100% in your work and be very efficient and very mindful of others if you're constantly angry at home or feel disappointed or depressed. And this is true as well for the budget. We can't keep pouring into the weapons industry if we're promoting ecology. So we need to have this giant table of conscious leaders have all their ideas, which I think this is already done, the idea part, but now how do we implement it? So I really think that if there was one word for my job that I want to do at the United Nations and bringing my network and speaking all together as one voice, is action. Action. It's time to implement all the ideas that we have. Give the budget to the scientists. Design. We have the design of the new spacecraft. Okay, how much does it cost to make it? How long will it take to make it happen? How do we distribute the recipe to other countries? What do they give us in exchange? Can we negotiate nuclear weapons and armaments and peace against merchandise? Economic trades that is gonna reboost their economy as well, and focus on one common goal. This is my one thing with Russia, and mostly Russia, because the Middle East is also the Middle East. I think this is something completely different. It's there is a untold wish to rebuild something new with the war as a pretext to destroy what was there before we can build the new. So this is very cultural. However, in Russia, I think they're a lot more concerned and interested in the energy transition. So focusing on the Space Olympics, having a common exciting project like the Space Olympics 2030, for example, will help us reopen the negotiations and try to detour all the focus on Ukraine, and trying to have maybe a referendum in Ukraine to see what the Ukrainian people want to do as majority. Do you want to stay a country, or do you want to belong to Russia? And listen to what the people say that they want to do and come to an agreement with the Russian president that we're going to listen to the people and now move on to our next project as one world, one community. They are scared that the Western countries want to take the monopoly, and they're building alliances as well. But in the end, this is just one atmosphere that we're all breathing. So if one messes up on one side of the world, we're all concerned. So there are decisions that we need to take all together. So it's just going to be conversations and communications and pacification of the relationships, showing transparency as well, and bringing the new. I would be so honored to represent all our network. For example, you see Billy Carson, who is always digging, the delicate, sensitive topics or cases, conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Yes, but people like this are the ones who point what was wrong, what happened was wrong in the past, and that cannot happen again. And all this community like this, that is a little bit controversial, right, for the governments, are the ones that we need to convince that the government is changing by listening to their ideas and integrating their communities into the change as well. So actually they're the ones who's driving the boat, because they are so conscious, so beneficent, that you want to listen to them. Why is he angry? What is it that happened to his family? The police, I've been a victim of the police before. All these little things, that's one trauma makes people angry for the rest of their life. If someone loses their dad because of police violence, or a single mom sent to jail because of police injustice or things like this, then this traumatizes people for life. And in order for them to change their ideas, you need to have this drastic change, but also put people that they trust in the governments and being able to infiltrate all these branches with consciousness. For example, we talk a lot about the use of drugs right now, psychedelics, marijuana, all these things. So many times I was so scared to lose my job because I sometimes, more and more rarely, use marijuana. Why? Because when I have anxiety, this is the only thing that calms me down. Does that make me a criminal? Would I take my car if I was completely high and risking my kid's life? Never, but, or sometimes someone needs a little beer to relax after work. There is a difference between having a beer and drinking a whole pack and coming home wasted, so having these, for example, I was aggressed actually the other day by a police officer, violently aggressed my son because I was entering a park. I was going to a regional park and I was in line, so we were completely stopped. We were not on the road anymore, we were already in the park, completely stopped on the line. And I have an opening rooftop in my car, and my son was standing there looking at the trees and stuff, and there is this guy next to me that pulls right next to me and starts yelling at Esteban, get down right now. Completely crazy in his car. So I open my window and I'm like, excuse me, we have a problem right here? He's like, yeah, we have a problem. This is illegal. He's just supposed sitting down with his seatbelt on. I was like, oh, and what about you mind your business? And then he came out of the car. He's like, I'm police. You can't talk to me like this. Blah, blah, blah. No, you can talk like this to my son. It's a beautiful day. I'm having a good day going to the beach. You mind your business. You got to relax. I didn't do anything wrong. We're not even driving right now. He was out of his mind. And I was like, maybe he had a bad day. But your authority doesn't allow you to come and aggressing people. You're supposed to be the role model. You would come out of your car and say, ma'am, sorry, considering my function, I'm in the obligation of telling you that your son should be strapped in right now. Please, buddy, can you sit down so I don't have to make a report? Okay, you don't go aggressing people because you have a badge. I'm sorry. So little things like this, but thankfully, he saw that everybody was looking at him, and I was very calm, and I said, you gotta calm down, it's Saturday, go have a good day, you know. And so then he left. But it's so easy to fight. It's so easy to get into arguments and fight. It's easier to get into an argument and fight than being the smart person, you know. So my mentors are my heroes, because when I would have a crisis or started being completely full of anxiety or angry or things like this, they would always be the smart one who comes back and calms me down, or put it into humor, or show this. So this is why I support them. I talk about them in my book during the whole time. The masterminds, I talk also about the United Nations, the politics. Yeah, it's been redone since then. It's been revamped and all updated, super beautiful. But talking about the president and all this, but this is why I want this book to be massively distributed, so people can be redirected towards our trees or oxygens, you know, who turn our anxiety into oxygens, into hope and inspiration. And who better than Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi to do that? And now it's business. I have no interest in business. Okay, business, money, don't give me money. I mean, that's not, I have no interest in business, but it's the way that they put, you want to have a passion, you want to be an artist, anything, something that gives your soul this spark, make it a business so you can actually live from it. Even though you're not interested in business, everybody has to make a living. So everybody is concerned. And for most of the people who didn't have the chance to have a degree or to have supportive families, or something happened to them, they know how to bring the spirituality and the passion and the soul into something that can actually put your life back together and help you actually make a living. This is why they're always on point. You know, if you go somewhere, they're talking strictly about business or strictly about politics. For example, the other day, the United Nations were posting about this lady, the scientist, and she was talking about her research about the biome and or the genome, and then she put a little story in between how she was a single mom and it was so hard when her son was sick, and she would go cry in the bathroom and come back to show, I have to show that I can do this, you know, I have to keep faith. And it just shows the human side of everyone. We're all human. We're all scared before we start talking in public. We're all scared before we have a conversation. We all scared before we try to make a change, because we don't know if we're going to be good enough. But in the end, someone's got to do it. So if you have the conviction, think about that first. Think about what you can bring to others, what you can do for others, before thinking if you're going to be good enough or not, because you will never be perfect. But switch, and this is one of the advice I would give to everybody. Stop thinking about, am I going to be good enough? Think about what people need to hear, what people need to know, where do they want to go, what information they need to have before you go and speak to them. So then you can focus on that. And it's actually a lot easier to have a discussion about work, for example, than having a personal conversation with your husband or with a friend about delicate topic and stuff like that. This is, I mean, at least, or even to make your kids laugh, you know, because you it's all this is I don't know, it's the, I don't know, it's the hard stuff, you know. It's harder because it touches you. Then of course the work touches you as well, but it's easier because you're focusing on the goals. So you want to make easier anything, you want to make it easier, focus on the goal. If you focus on the goal, all you can find in between is solutions. You have obstacles, then you go around, you detour, but you have to find a solution. If you say, oh, there is this and there is this and there is this, you're just accumulating excuses, but you're focusing on the goal. What are the solutions? Okay, and brainstorm all together. I want to do a lot of brainstorming, bringing all our ideas. Okay, who do you know who can do that? Who do you know who can do that? Okay, and let's do it. Let's do it. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to be a part of your team. It's gotta be. I don't want to be applying for the United Nations for another 5 years. Please, let's just have it. This is the perfect time right now. I can move this summer, get to work as soon as possible, publish this book, start making contacts with countries in Russia, going to the Middle East. I've been to the Middle East. I know the culture. I love discovering new cultures. Why did I go to the Middle East? Actually, that was a fun story because I wanted to spend my life in South America. I never wanted to leave South America. I love it. I feel like that's my second home. So when I graduated my master's degree, I had to go do an internship. And I found an internship in an embassy in Paraguay. That was my dream. It was a political service in Paraguay for the defense of indigenous communities. So that was exactly what I had studied for. And my fiance at the time had just been transferred in the Middle East. So just in case, I sent an application to the Alliance Française in Bahrain. And they called me right away. Like within the next morning, they called me. We need you. The director was super nice. Can we have an interview? I need a cultural director. I can hire you as an intern for the first 6 months. If it goes well, I will hire you as a cultural director. I just ask that you also teach, because we need teachers, and this is what brings money to the Alliance that sponsors the cultural events. So if you can do both, let's go. So I had my dream of going to work in an embassy and political, indigenous, all the stuff I wrote about and studied for, and going to follow love and going to the Middle East and doing something completely new. And so this is what I chose because he offered already that there would be a possibility of hire. Well, when you go do internships in an embassy, for example, usually they don't hire you because they're internship roles that don't follow up, because in order to be hired in an embassy, you need a lot more experience and stuff like that. So I decided to go in the Middle East, and that actually added up so much in my resume, because now I had the Hispanic background, but I also had experience in the Middle East, and that allowed me to travel in the Middle East, to discover the culture, learn the language a little bit. So I loved it. I would be so excited to go back there and work with countries in Asia, in Dubai, Bahrain, of course, help solve the conflict in Israel and Palestine, and work for the reconstruction. And that would have to be done on a completely new basis of culture. With this book, once again, it's not because I wrote it, but I wrote it for that. Remember, I'm goal-oriented. So the goal of this book was peace in the world. Well, how can we convert people's minds, not to change their religion, but at least to accept differences and be more open to other religions and other cultures? through something that is not political, the art, everybody would look at the art, you know, and you're gonna be less offended by a piece of art that talks about Buddhism than a country, you know, your government that is changing religions, for example, you know, something that drastic. If it's been well anchored in your mind for so many centuries, the change is difficult. So this is why through the arts, as Todd says, okay, take them by the arts and follow the plan that you know of, because the arts is something that everybody can look at and subliminally first enters your mind, and then when you explain, they get interested, and then this is where the acceptance start. You can start a dialogue, started opening up a dialogue. So publishing that, working with schools overseas, in the Middle East, in Asia, organizing events, and of course, with never forgetting the scientific aspect, because I'm very interested into the ecological transition. That would always have to be an aspect of the change, because wherever we're going to bring something new, we need to have this ecological consciousness applied to it. If you're going to bring a new product, how are you going to not use plastic to have it? How are you going to use recyclable materials? What energy, how much energy does it need? How can we use renewable energies? Now there's a lot of scientific discoveries, a lot of devices that we produce could be self-sustainable. The phones, I think the phones, now we could have just a little solar panel on the back of our phones, and that's it. We're gonna have sustainable phones. We won't even need the charger anymore, you know. So all these little things, we have to start. It has to start. It's no longer the future. It's gotta happen now. So let's meet up around our common goals and focus on what's working so we can heal what isn't. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week, and I hope to hear from you soon.